out of the house because I know what a schlep it is to get out of the house these days. It really is. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you to Zibby's Books for having me. It was one of the venues I really wanted to be in. Actually, Zibby gave me some good advice on publishers and publicists, so she's a thank you in the back of my book, and I was just thrilled to be here for that. I thank you to everyone who showed up. I've got some cousins in the house and friends and people that supported all of us. And then most importantly is my fabulous panel of stars. I am so happy. Listen, I would not have a book if it wasn't for these people. They're brilliant, they're talented, they're gonna share some great things with you guys today. And thank you for coming over and supporting me. I really, from my heart, I really appreciate it. You too down there, Greg. Okay. So you're welcome. So what I think I wanted to, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the book. I'll introduce everybody. Then I'll tell you just maybe a little bit more. I'm not going to read from the book, but I'm going to have everybody else read from their chapter because I think they're going to do a group job, and I'm going to let them do the work, do the heavy lifting. But so this is a new book for me, and it took 6 years to make. And I know Julie's brother said, how long does it really take? I think a lot longer than 6 years to make. And interestingly, so I turned in a draft to Heliotrope. It's an indie press out in New York. And then I brought in a friend of mine, Rex Weiner, who has a chapter in the book, the first chapter. And I showed it to him. He said, Anita, you have 3 books. You have a memoir, you have a self-help book, because there were self-help exercises at the end of every chapter, and it was a book with interviews. He said, pick one. So I picked interviews. So there you go. It is a book of interviews. So I have 23 fabulous people in the book. I got the 24th chapter, so I gave myself a chapter here. So why not? Because I had memoir stuff, right? So I just shoved the memoir stuff back in that chapter. And it has 121 personal photos because I am a photographer. And I just want to say, over all the years that you guys let me take your picture, Julie, we had some really good pictures.
I know. I saw them. I don't remember them. It was so exciting.
So when I asked you guys to pose with me because then I can use them much later and in a book. So let me just introduce this fabulous panel of experts. So we have Tamara Rawitt. So Tamara, we met when I had first moved to Los Angeles in like the early 80s, 1982. And she was the VP of Eddie Murphy Productions, and I was her temp secretary. A job I did not like, but I loved working for. So here's a bit of advice. If you meet somebody at the very bottom when you first arrive, they can stay your very dear friends for the rest of your life. And so that was kind of awesome. Her chapter is actually called Drop Through the Skylight, because that's one of her philosophies, is dropping through the skylight. She is a trailblazing producer for film and TV. She discovered Black comedians like Eddie Murphy, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Damon Wayans. She might share a J-Lo Fly Girl story with us later, but you never know what she's going to share. She was the co-creator and Emmy-winning producer of In Living Color, which was a brilliant show. And for the last 5 years, she's been consulting with Netflix, and she's in pre-production on a comedy pilot based on true life events. Did I cover that pretty well?
Beautifully. You're hired.
Okay. She is so much more. I know. She is so much more that she's going to share, but those are the highlights. Okay. Ooh, now we're shoving down to the end. Greg. What? Marilyn, can you have a seat? But you're not part of the panel. Can I sit here?
Yes.
Okay.
Sit
The
down.
book starts at 6. Okay. So, Greg's chapter is called With Friends, the TV show Friends, and its success, everything aligned, magic happened. So I was really shocked when so he's a production designer. One thing I love about Greg is he has done everything. He started off doing, you were an art director. First you were a set decorator, then you were an art decorator, craft service, production designer. I love that you worked on the Heathers.
Oh,
I know, blast from the past. And he's an Emmy Award nominee for Friends. How we met is I was cleaning out my studio, and he came over and he got a whole bunch of artwork and put it on the set of Friends, which was awesome. And then I got to go on the set of Friends and take pictures, sitting and pretending I was friends with friends. And he's going to have some fun stories. He's done Mixed Dish, Dear White People, Malibu, Country, Cougar Town, that 90s show, spin-off of a 70s show, right? Home Economics, and you are currently on the Hulu project called Unprisoned with Kerry Washington and Delroy Lindo. Yeah, and you may talk about, I was surprised at how spiritual he is in his approach to production designing and wafting it set. So he may talk about feng shui and space cleansing a set. I don't know, we'll see what he has to talk about. And we're going to go over here to Barbie Pink. We have Julie Brown, the fabulous Julie Brown, and her chapter is called People with Star Quality Have Fairy Dust Coming Off Them. Because one of the big questions I was asking everyone, which if we have time, I can bring up panelists to give a tip on what they think is star quality. Because the book How to Be the Star of Your Life is not how to go off and be a movie star. It's no matter what you do in your life, it's to have that star quality, that confidence. And it means something different to everybody. So Julie is a hyphenate. And there's a lot of hyphenates in town. And I think, yeah, you're a hyphenate. Catherine's a hyphenate also. So she's a writer, comedian, director, and producer. And one of the things she talked about is you got to make stuff. Like if you need things to act in, then you have to make it and write it and do it, right? And how we met was I was sitting next to her at Ann Beats had an event, and Ann has a chapter in the book. She was a Saturday Night Live writer. And I turned to Julie. I knew who she was, and I loved her. And I was the biggest fan of her. Girls Are Easy. And I go, I need a celebrity. Can I feng shui you? And she said, I don't know what that is, but yes. And so that's how we became friends. So she's known for her video parodies of Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun, Medusa, Dare to Be Truthful, and she had an MTV show called Just Say Julie. She wrote and co-starred in Earth Girls Are Easy, which is one of my favorite Kitchen Campy films. I love that. And you have a fun story. I don't know if you're going to tell that one, but I love that story from Earth Girls. Okay. And she did, I remember you did Camp Rock and you were working on it and you said, there's these boys, I think they're going to be big stars. They're called the Jonas Brothers. You wouldn't know who they are because you're not a teenager. You're like, oh, yeah, whatever. And Demi Lovato, when you talk about star quality, how you knew that they had star quality, right? She has acted in Clueless in the middle, and later this year, I want to see this Alien Vacation.
I know. I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited.
It sounds like your cup of tea.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we have Catherine Hardwicke was on a different panel, and she's like, I want to come do this, and jumped on here, and I'm so thrilled that she's come. And she's somebody I've always admired. Because one thing is, I was one of the few female directors in the late 80s. I did Assault of the Killer Bimbos and Modern Girls. And Catherine has also, we've all been around for a long time, but she is one of the few female directors that is still working, award-winning, is still out there making it happen, been in the trenches, been at the height of the heights, and she has some wonderful things to share. I'm really thrilled that she's come. Her chapter is called Dig Deep, and she might tell her Tom Cruise story. We sort of pivoted to a different story. She's a fun Tom Cruise story. So she is a director, writer, producer, and production designer. That's how she started. Award-winning director for Twilight, 13, Where's Dogtown. She's done Red Riding Hood that has Virginia Madsen, and Virginia has a chapter in the book as well. So everyone is sort of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. We don't know. I don't know. But we're 6 degrees of each other somehow in there. Mafia Mama, which we all were just talking. If you have not seen it, where is it on now that we can watch it?
It's one of the streamers.
It has Tony Collette. It's good. It's really good. Yeah. There's no female director attached to that. It is just a director. It is really, what that means that I just said. And she has an upcoming Hulu series called Under the Bridge with Riley Keough and Lily Gladstone. So that's kind of
I just
exciting.
directed one episode, but still, I'll take it.
Yeah, take it. And one thing that I want to bring to everyone's attention that I'm impressed, she did this sculpture called the Hollywood Gateway Walk of Fame, because I live in Hollywood. If anyone's been there, it's the end of the street. It's like Hollywood and La Brea.
Yeah.
And it has Mae West, Anna Mae Wong, Dolores Del Rio, Dorothy Dandridge, and Marilyn Monroe on top. So if you're ever in Hollywood, you have to go by.
I think somebody stole the Maryland.
Yes.
It's gone. Somebody in this room might have it.
Okay.
But also, you didn't say that I was the production designer on Her
We went-
movie, oh my
I'm gonna
goodness.
give you something.
Oh,
Catherine was-
geez.
Wow. We hired Catherine.
Really? Oh my gosh.
We
That
go
is,
way, way
okay, well, thank you for filling that in, because I didn't know. I had a feeling everybody kind of knew somebody that was here, so. Anyway, they're all gonna read something in a second, but what I thought I'd just take a minute to do is put my glasses back on and talk about, well, I'm Anita Rosenberg, and I talked a little bit about myself. So I went to NYU Graduate Film School, and I graduated in '82, and I came out to Hollywood with my little thesis film tucked under my arm, and it was called Bachelorette Pad. It had Barbie dolls that came to life. Well, it was little Barbie before Barbie, and then we know Sue Shapiro and Cynthia, just wrote one of the big Barbie books, and so yes, I had Barbie way before that. Okay, and it was actually developed into with ABC, a Universal, a sitcom, which we never got made. But at a time, I have to say, like, I came out here and I really didn't think about the fact that I was a female director, and I didn't think about the fact that my things were weird and kooky. I just thought, I'm going to come make stuff. And my goal was, like, by the age of 30, I wanted to direct a Hollywood film. And by 29, I actually did. So I came out, my first film was Modern Girls. It was about girls going to nightclubs looking for guys at the time when Porky's was big and Bachelor Party was big. So I'm shocked I even got that made. But it was with Atlantic Releasing, which did Valley Girl. So I kind of thought, ooh, Valley Girl, maybe they'll do my film. And then I did Assault of a Killer Bimbos. So I was given the title, and I thought, this is insulting. I don't know. And then I rented some Russ Meyer movies and some Roger Corman girl gang films, and I thought, if I could do it my way and have fun, I'm in. They could be fun. So, I mean, look, it's not that my films were not the great films I studied in film school. They weren't Preston Sturges and Billy Wilder, but they were mine. And I'm going to take it. And actually, I did get tuxed over with Karen. She was like, don't just get dressed, get tuxed. And so that was a short film that I made in order to show that I could direct it, got the directing gig. But after 14 years, here's my chapter heading. Not even a 4-hour lunch with George Clooney could keep me in the movie business. I didn't think I'd ever get out of it. I was seeing a lot of women in film, like, people trying to direct and make movies leaving, and I thought, why would you leave such a glamorous business? And I love the glamorous business. But after 14 years, I just, I was tired of the dangling carrots. So one of the things that is interesting, going back to what this book's all about for me, is everything I learned about the movie business, I applied to creating 2 new lifestyle businesses. So I created a business hand painting decorative accessories out of my garage in the Hollywood Hills, and I grew $1 million business in 4 years. And then while I was in Hong Kong importing my decor stuff, I learned about feng shui, and I'm like, what the heck's that? And I was like, well, if I could in my booths at the trade show bring me more money, then I want to learn. So did I think I would have a career as a feng shui expert and Chinese astrologer? No. But I've done this for 25 years now. Hence, that's why I wanted to put like self-help exercises in this book. But so one of the things that I did do that I wanted to show you is I divided this book into, it's got 6 sections. And it's the sections that I feel that the film business is divided into. And also creating a business or a career are divided. Like first you have writers. If you don't have anything on the page, you've got nothing to base things off of. Producers, they raise the money and they make things happen. Directors have the vision. Then you have the actors who act and so today I'm an actor. And then you have the crew, and the crew is everybody else. And I'm probably really heavy on crew in this book because crew makes it all happen. You got to have the editors, the cameramen, and all those things. So that's kind of how I divided it. So now I'm going to kind of pass it over. And you just said to me, you didn't want to be the last one. You don't want to be the first one either. All right. Who wants to go?
I'll go first.
All right. Greg is going to be a man.
So it's funny, you're saying all this stuff. I didn't know half that about you.
Oh. I'm glad I decided to
I knew you as
it out.
an artist that painted decorative candlesticks and boxes. I'm not even sure how we ended up but I found you and I put stuff on the set of Friends. And just to correct you, I was a set decorator at the time. I'm now production designing. So I was on the pilot of Friends and lucky enough to have your pieces on, and I think they lasted for almost 10 years on that set. So,
And then you said one or two might still be, there's a Java frame by the sink
yeah.
that might be still in the
Who knows who
museum.
took what, but maybe the actors did take a lot of stuff. So
Okay.
anyway, I was lucky enough to get the call. Thank you. I haven't seen you in years. And make a chapter in your book. So how about that? As an art director in the TV world, we create the look of the show. It's basically about the architecture and the color palette, the style and the design. Is it going to be modern? Is it going to be eclectic? Is the show a period piece? We set the tone for the look of the show. Then the set itself many times becomes the character in the show. We are socialists, sociologists, we are archaeologists, we are setting the world the actors live in. We mine this energy and find what these characters are really all about. Where do they come from? We conclude this information without being told that from the script many times. We have to dig to find out what will make the set more interesting, have more texture, and come alive. Like the hidden little treasures of the hand-painted furniture I got from Anita. We use these pieces for Monica's room because she was into swap meets. The idea was that every weekend she would collect things, so her place was littered with all these little found objects and treasures.
Well, keep going because we actually are running really good on time. So take up some more time.
We are seeing more and more TV sets that have mixed styles, mixed emotions, and textures of creative furniture from back in the day. Reinvented pieces, which makes for even more interesting story for the character. So that's my little contribution.
But talk a little bit about, because you just.
So back in the day,
Yeah.
when Friends was starting, a lot of sitcoms were pretty much a one-layer situation. There wasn't a lot of shows that had the, as I used to say, the layers that we put in there. So what I did is I went through the basement of Warner Brothers and pulled all these antique pieces of furniture out and kind of reinvented them. And then actually did what the character was supposed to do, is go to swap meets, Long Beach, Rose Bowl, Pasadena. Back in the day, Santa Monica wasn't what it is now. And, you know, my wife and I would go and we'd look for things and find things. And before you knew it, the layers on the set became more and more, including religious artifacts. Funny story about that is behind the TV in the pilot, the big walkthrough with the producers and the studio and network was this big, beautiful tapestry that was a little bit too religious for the network and the studio. And, you know, I found it in the archives of the drapery department that no one ever was in for years and years. So I had to scramble because this was like 2 days before we were going to shoot the show. And I happened to have found a carnival book at one of the swap meets. And in the carnival book was this great, it was a pictorial carnival book. And it was a great picture, which is now that famous picture that sits on the wall in Monica's apartment. So what I did is I took it to the gallery that made all our artwork and framed it. They shot a negative of it, blew it up, and framed it. Back in the day, the clearances for artwork wasn't what it was like now. And I got away with it. And, you know, I can't tell you even to this day how many people email me at least monthly. Where'd you get that piece of artwork? Where's that poster from? So, you know, there's little stories like that that happened all through the years. But it was the kind of show that we were setting a new look, I think, for how we dressed sitcom life and sitcom worlds. And I just, you know, it was a beautiful dance between all the departments, costume, the actors, what was happening in the world back in the 90s. And, you know, my set, I lost, and let me see how many times, I've lost 5 Emmys to other people, but the set lives on.
Ah,
That's
I
great.
got to go to that. But you were nominated, and that's important.
That's right.
But you know what's interesting? So if you parallel that idea, though, is we all where we live, and so in feng shui, it's 1/3 of our life, and where we live in our environment, in our space, really affects us. So it's kind of like the set. The minute you have a set, then that's where everybody comes to life. That's where the characters live. So there's a nice little parallel. So hopefully you will all now look at your TV show sets a little different, with different eyes. All right, Julie, we're gonna head over to Julie.
Okay, I guess I'll just start reading it and then you can ask me questions. Okay, Earth Girls Are Easy was an actual song that we wrote that was on an album that Rhino Records put out for me. It was out there in the universe, and Warner Brothers called and said, "These songs are so theatrical. Do you have any movie ideas?" Well, we'd already thought of the movie. My partner's Charlie Coffey. We'd already thought of the movie. We were writing the song, so I pitched it to them, and I sold it in the room, which is a really strange thing to do. They're like, "We're buying it." It's like in Hollywood. And I'm like, okay. And they said I was going to star in it. So, and they gave me another album deal, and the whole thing was an epic experience. And it was some of it was really good, and some of it was really bad. You think I got a deal to write a movie, and I get to be in it, and it's going to be great. Then they asked me to do a screen test for the film. And it was written in the contract that I was supposed to star in it, but after I did the screen test, which was actually really good, I've seen it. They said, they go, "You're not a big enough star to star in it." So I was crushed, like completely crushed. So they decided that they wanted Gina Davis, Accidental Tourist, Thelma and Louise, and Jeff Goldblum. They needed them to get a green light from the studio. And to me, Gina didn't come off like a Valley girl, in my mind. She's like 6 feet tall. I mean, what Valley girl is 6 feet tall? She's a really nice person and a talented actress, but I didn't think she was much of the character at all. So I had an attitude, of course. I thought my career was completely over, and I was devastated when I couldn't do the lead because I put my whole heart and soul into it. It was a complete wreck. The only power I had was to say, "You can't make the movie." So that wasn't going to do me any good. So I thought, what am I going to do? How can I get something out of this? So I rewrote the co-star part of the gay guy best friend for myself as Candy Pink, the woman who owns the Curl Up and Dye hairdressing salon. And I think in the long run, it turned out to be a much better part for me. So that's one of the things I learned, that co-star part or another part can be really amazing. So that's how I ended up doing that part. And I was happy about it.
And I love that idea. Like sometimes the co-star is the better part.
I know it really is.
But conceptually speaking, sometimes there's things that we want to do, but we don't get to do like the main thing. But then you get this other thing. Maybe that was the better part. Which
I think it was ultimately. Like when I look at it now, I feel that way. But at the time, you don't realize that because my songs, I had all these songs in the movie, and the idea that somebody else was going to sing them. But I ended up singing most of my songs. It ended up getting rewritten. So it really was the better part for me. But you don't know that at the time. You're just like completely destroyed. Also, they got me a makeup guy for the screen test. I'm talking to this guy, and he goes, "Yeah, I did makeup on The Wizard of Oz." I'm like, "What?" It wasn't very good. And he actually like poked my eye. Like, why did they get me this guy? He was very sweet, but not really good. So,
let me ask you this question because I was going to do this at the panel, but when we're like on to your thing about star quality, you have just tell the little story that you were saying. I was asking you who has star quality, and then you did Camp Rock.
Oh yeah.
And you were sort of like how you concluded
Well, Camp Rock. Do you guys know Camp Rock? You're not teenagers, so you might not. But if you have a teenager, you would, or these girls would.
The young
It's this really cute Disney movie like High School Musical. It was like the next biggest one. And it's about this summer camp where you learn to do rock and roll. I wrote it with my brother, who's actually here tonight, Paul Brown.
Wave Paul
Brown. And
she was great in the movie, by the way.
I'm in the movie too. That's right. I'm the camp counselor. But the thing is, it was supposed to star like one rock star guy and then a girl. They told me, they go, the people we got the Jonas Brothers. I had never heard of them, but they go, they're really good. Well, I met them on the set, and they were so cute and so adorable. And I mean, such nice people too. You're like, they weren't little jerks like I thought they were going to be. They were really sweet. They were.
And really rich now.
No, really rich.
But you singled one out in particular that you thought had
Oh,
a little
Nick
more
Jonas.
store quality.
Nick Jonas, who is, I think, the biggest
He's the
star of
most
them.
talented.
Yeah, he's amazing. I was in the lobby with my new computer and I couldn't find how to do the brightness button. And he goes, I'll help you. So, and he was like, so cute. He was like 14 and he's like, help me with my computer. And there was something about it that was pretty magical. And he's the biggest of the stars. But the one who was really, really a star was Demi Lovato. You guys all know who Demi Lovato is.
Yes.
She's the star of it. And I'd never heard of her or seen her in anything. I don't know if she'd done anything before, but there was something about her. And she had this song called This Is Me in the movie. And on the last day of the shoot, she gets her guitar. She goes, I want to sing to everybody. And she plays by herself to the whole crew. And you just go, this is a star. This is unbelievable. And I think what it is like you see somebody and they change the atmosphere of the room. It's like everything kind of changes. You know?
How old was she when
She
she
was
did that?
14 or 15.
Wow.
But you just go, she's a star. She had this great voice, but she was so intense about it. And I knew she was going to be a huge star. So,
There you go. There's
Yeah.
all right. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Ooh, Catherine, you're on.
Okay.
Spotlight on you.
Yay.
Yay.
So I used to be a production designer too, which I love that job, and it's so fun to really build a character and create a character and, you know, add all the little details that make you think that's a real person. I've gone to somebody's house like that. So whenever I went to people's houses, I would just snoop around all the time. I'd get lost on the way to the bathroom. Why do they keep that stash of newspapers there? What, you know, all those things that make things real. So I was trying to, you know, I was doing Roger Corman movies and I Want to Get You Sucker, and then, you know, kind of clawed my way up to get to to production design Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise. But it wasn't exactly the way I wanted to get the job, because normally as a production designer on a movie, you know, you get like 2 months or 3 months, maybe, depending on the size of the movie, to prepare for it, research it, really get into the details. In this case, I was on another movie for Paramount. They decided to drop that movie and fire the production designer on Vanilla Sky when they'd already been shooting for, I believe, like 2 weeks in New York. If you saw that movie, there's the whole part where they shut down Times Square. And so they'd done that, and then they came back to LA and they saw the sets built at Paramount and did not like them. They hated them. And so they decided to fire that person. And it was 2 days before the Christmas holidays. So they said, can you take over? And all the prop houses are shut down. All the stores, half of them are shut down. They fired the entire art department, all the set designers, and they fired all the set decorating department. And I said, well, how am I going to take over? And by the time we come back from Christmas holidays, January 3rd, we want to shoot the major set. Okay. And I was in absolute shock, you know, like, how can I do that? There's no crew. There's nobody to deal with this. So, this was the biggest movie I'd ever production designed before. And the biggest budget, the biggest star. I was pretty, you know, shocked or whatever to be doing this. So it's like 2 days into my job. So I think it was like December, you know, 23rd. And Tom Cruise walks on the set, you know, and I'd never met Tom. And I'd seen him on billboards like 30 feet tall. And suddenly he's a human being right there in front of me. And he comes up and he looks at me with the Scientology eyes. Staring into my soul, you know. And he said, let's see. He said, so his apartment was supposed to be in the Dakota on Central, you know, right off Central Park in New York City. And normally I would have researched it. I would have seen photos and everything, but I didn't even have time to do that. And I never had been there. And he told me my character is supposed to be like Rupert Murdoch, this high status publisher. And he said that I want the decor to be as great as Rupert Murdoch's house. Let's see, he said, and the set at that moment looked kind of like a bordello, very dark walls and everything. Didn't really look too good. So I was really nervous. He said, I'm glad you took this job. I heard you didn't get to go on your family Christmas vacation, but I know you're going to do a great job. He said, listen, you know what Rupert Murdoch's house looks like. He said, you've been on his yacht, and he said, you've smelled the leather of his chairs. You know the quality. You know what the picture frames look like, He said, so you know that kind of detail that I'm looking for. You know it in your blood. And right when he said this, I thought, does he know who I am? I was like, I have never been on Rupert Murdoch's yacht. I've never been hanging out at his house, and I've never been on any yacht ever in my entire life at that point. And the thing is, I come from a very struggling, poor family in South Texas. Okay, my dad is a farmer, a cotton farmer. My mom is a school teacher. And I had just come to tell, whatever, nothing to do with Rupert Murdoch. So, the image that came into my mind when he's saying this to me is that a year before I'd been back to my hometown where I was born. It's called Raymondville, Texas. I doubt if anyone's heard of it. And my mom was very proud to show me the house that I had grown up in from age 0 to 3. And she said, it's a cute little white cottage. We drove up and I noticed there's no glass in the windows. And then I noticed as we got closer that a horse popped his head out the window and went, nay, and I'm like, wow, it's a barn now. Okay, so I basically grew up in a little house that's now a barn. So right when Tom said to me, you've been to Rupert Murdoch's yacht. I just saw that horse. No, no, I have not been there. And so I was thinking, I'm an imposter. I mean, how can I possibly do this? And he told me, he said, I want it to be better than Rupert Murdoch's house, a lot more stylish and hip, So I'm just kind of like freaking out, seeing the horse, neighing at me. And I'm thinking, I'm of course having like a panic attack inside, And so I panicked like instantaneously for about 1 second. And then I thought, fuck this, man. I know how to design. I went to 5 years of architecture school. I'm a good designer. I'm going to do something really fucking cool. And I don't care. It might not look like Rupert Murdoch's house, but it's going to be better. And so somehow I did just dig deep inside me, literally in about 10 seconds, and not run out the door. And I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove to Tom that I can come from that little house and do something great. So,
And he kissed your feet.
Yes, he actually kissed my feet for another reason. Oh, you skipped that part of the story.
Oh.
That part's even better. Do you guys want to hear
Yes.
that part? Or do we have time? Oh, no. Okay.
Well, we're going to kind of skip questions. Let's just, I keep doing, okay, let's go for it because you guys are interesting and let's keep going.
Well,
Okay, yeah.
we don't have to.
Yeah.
Now
We'll
you
kiss
have
your
to.
feet.
Well, now you have to.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to.
Okay, well, this one I have to stand up for.
Okay.
So, let's see.
Oh, she's turned into an actor today.
This is an action story. Okay. So, basically, after he saw that set, he really liked it. And he thought, yeah, you did a good job. I mean, I had all my friends painting paintings on the weekend that are actors, and hairdressers were helping me get for just anything I could do to make it look really good. And it did look good if you saw the movie. It looks very nice, blah, blah, blah. But then, so when he came in, he saw that. He goes, oh, now I want you to redo Penelope Cruz's apartment. And Penelope, if you saw them, did anybody see the movie Vanilla Sky? Penelope Cruz was an artist, she was a painter, and they had already filmed that apartment in New York that was built as a cover set. They filmed it for one day at the cost of $250,000, took down all the walls, put him on a truck, brought him back to Paramount, built a whole soundstage, built him on a soundstage. So I wasn't worried about that set. I'd never even seen it because I thought, okay, that set is done. They've already shot it. They're not going to waste that money. I was just worried about all the other sets on the movie. But he goes, no, I need that set redone. And he said, by tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And it was like at 11 in the day. I said, I know I redid the other set, but I did have several days over the Christmas holiday. There's absolutely no way I can do that by, 9 a.m. in the morning. And he said, come into the Bluebird. Now, does anybody know what a Bluebird is? Do y'all know what the Bluebird is? Okay, if you look on school buses or if you look on like motorhomes, you'll see a logo. It's made by a company called Bluebird. Okay, so that he wanted me to go into. Why did I have to stand up? I don't know. I'll get to that. But he said, come into the Bluebird. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's his trailer. It's a mobile home, and it's got, it's all like Art Deco, and it's what he has on the set, like baby yak skins or on the leather. And I don't know. It looks pretty outrageous to me. And so I come into the Bluebird, and he walks down the aisle. Cameron Crowe, the director, is there. Right before I went there, the art director and the set decorator were kind of walking with me. Don't agree to it. Don't agree to it. Absolutely don't agree to it. I'm like, I never would. I'm not that crazy. So he goes over, he walks down the line, he turns on the stereo, and it's a trance song. Then he turns around. By the time he turns around, he's got 3 buttons and he's done. And then he reaches out and he takes my hand.
This is not in the book, Marty. Bonus material.
Bonus. He takes my hand and starts dancing with his Scientology on, charming me. And he does that technique that a salesperson does sometimes. He gets you to agree with him. You agree, then you buy the car. So he says, you did a great job on the set, right? And I'm like, right. And then he said, and you would do a great job. And now he's like, right? And I'm like, right. And he goes, so you will find a way. You'll make the whole movie better if you do this, right? I'm like, right, because I'm getting hypnotized, and he's dancing with me, and I'm like, whoa. Then he goes, so you're going to redo the whole set by tomorrow at 9, right? I'm like, right. And so then I walk in the door of the trailer, and there's the art director, and set decorator. You didn't agree to it. I go, right. I did, and so I did by many crazy ways. Got it done by 9 the next morning. We did not even go into overtime. And he walked on the set. He loved it. You can see it in the movie. And he got down and kissed my feet.
Wow!
But he encouraged me to never settle for anything. Like even on all the movies I've directed now, like I don't want to settle. If it can be made better, let's make it better. If you can elevate it, elevate it.
I love that.
Yeah. It's a way to keep trying to make it better and raise your game.
Have you used that technique on anyone?
I saw your moves.
I don't know how. I can't do it as good as he can. He's very good.
All right, thank you. I love that.
Great.
And we're going to go into Tamara. Pressure side, you're going to wrap it all up for us.
Okay, I'm going to do the Evelyn Wood of my life, right? You young people, it's reading really fast. So I was head of marketing at Paramount. Okay, I was head of marketing at Paramount Pictures. Eddie Murphy started his career there with 48 Hours. And the movie, Frank Mancuso was the head of the studio, and he called me up in New York. He said, we're sending a print in of the movie. I need you to get everybody in and see it. Go in the screening room and see the movie. Halfway through the movie, there's that famous barroom scene where he grabs the gun and says, I'm your worst nightmare. I'm going to go with a gun, right? Big, big moment on many cultural levels. And I walk out, I just looked at that moment. I knew him from Saturday Night Live, and I went, oh my God, he's the biggest star in the world. He is the biggest star in the world. And I call LA, and I say to Frank and everybody out there, I said, he's going to be the biggest star in the world. And then I call his managers, and I say, he's going to be the biggest star in the world. No one from the studio called anybody about this at all, not at all. And Subsequently, of course, we started with 48 hours, and then I became his point person at the studio, and I did everything for 48 hours up to Beverly Hills Cop with him. And at that point, I had done everything in marketing that I wanted to do. And he knew I was getting bored. So one day the guard at the bottom of the Gulf of Western Building called me. This was right after Beverly Hills Cop opened and made the most money that year of any movie. He was the biggest star in the world. He was on the cover of Time and Newsweek, which was unprecedented at that time. And the guard in the lobby calls me up and goes, Eddie's in the lobby. He looks really angry. He's coming up to see you. And I thought, what could he be angry about? He's the biggest star in the world. The prophecy came true. He comes into my room, to my office, and I'm sitting behind my desk, and he slams the door shut, and I'm thinking, oh, my poor Jewish mother in Brooklyn, it's over for me. I'm gonna die in his hand. He reaches behind his back and pulls out a first-class ticket and throws it on my desk and says, "Move to LA and open my company for me." Wow. Total Cinderella moment. Unbelievable. Cut to 1985. I'm in LA. Hire Anita Rosenberg as my assistant. I started working with him on developing the next set of movies, Beverly Hills Cop 2 and Golden Child, and we had to find really good fish out of water shows, movies for him because that's what he excelled at. And I developed. I worked with Chris Rock during that time, and I worked with the Wayans brothers. And I always felt that Keenan had something, but it needed to be kind of carved and shaped. So after I worked with Eddie for a couple of years, it was time for me to sort of go out on my own. And he always had this great idea for a movie called I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, which was a cult movie where you reunited all the blaxploitation stars from the 70s and did an action movie with those people like Tamara Hobson and Jim Brown. And I knew it was a great idea. And from my marketing background, I knew I could sell it. I knew that I knew everything I could do with that movie. So I got Eddie to give us the rights. Keenan was floundering at that time. I said, write your draft. Let's see where it goes. He did a draft of it, a bunch of other drafts. We sold it to a studio. We made the movie in 1988 for $2.8 million. It went on to gross $50 million in 1988, which is huge, huge. Got the movie out in town, got everybody in town to see the film. And at that point, Barry Diller, who was one of my bosses at Paramount Pictures, had just started Fox Television. And I invited everybody to come see it because, they had to sort of beat the drum. And we get a call from Fox saying, come over, talk to us. And on the way over, I said to Keenan, I said, ever since Eddie Murphy left Saturday Night Live, there's been no Black presence on that show. The culture had no representation at all. I said, it's time. And culturally, Black people were coming into their own finally. And I said, it's time for you to own that space. And it's time for you to make fun of your culture and your people on your terms. We go into Fox, we sell it, they buy it. We go out, we shoot it. It's like, that takes, we did an hour-long pilot, which was really funny. It sat on a shelf for 6 months because they were terrified of it. And Barry Diller called in the NAACP and said he wanted them to vet the movie. And these people are much older. They weren't young, hip Black people. They were much, much older from another era of life. And they, of course, said, no, it's so offensive. What do you mean, like Sammy Davis Jr. as Mandela? I can't approve that. And we did the Calvin Klein commercial, instead, and the perfume was called Depression. And so, there was all this really, and then we did the Wrath of Farrakhan, except we did the Wrath of Khan, except we put Farrakhan on the So I thought it was like the most hip, and so did Keenan, and they were terrified of it. It sat on the shelf for 6 months. All our careers, we knew we had a hit, and everyone in town was sneaking the pilot and watching it, and I would get hit on all the time, going, oh my God, why isn't that show on the air? And finally, I called a friend of mine up who was a journalist. And I said, she goes, what have you been doing? And I said, let me send it to you. And I sent it to you. She goes, why isn't this on the air? I said, why don't you write about it? And so she got Details magazine to give her one page to write about of a show that may or may not ever surface, which was unprecedented. It runs, the article runs, I tell no one about it. I rip it out of this is like going way back. I rip it out of the magazine. I write, I fax it to Barry Diller's office, and I go, now what are you scared of? And the next morning, we got 8 episodes on the air.
And your chapter is dropping through the skylight, which is
It's all about perspective, and it's all about how you see things and how differently. I see things other people don't see. I just do. I don't see dead people. And so I just knew the time was right for Black culture to own itself, and I knew it was time to do that. And the best day on the set was the morning after we won the Emmy. We beat Saturday Night Live our first year. Big deal. Worst day on the set was the day the riots broke out in LA. Because on our set, we were really colorblind. It was colorless. You know, you just had to be funny to be on our set. But that day, hell broke loose. Anyway, I showed up on the set wearing a t-shirt that said Black owned because I had to make a joke. So, so that was weird.
And so we have run out of time, but I can listen to these guys forever. It will be great. And so I want to thank you so much for. Before we break, and we are here to sign books, I had to put some of my feng shui Chinese astrology in the book. Okay. There is exclusive content at the back. There's a QR code. It took me a year to figure this out. You click the QR code and you can plot your Bazi Chinese astrology chart, just a smaller sort of bespoke version of it. And there's a PDF. And in the PDF, it's going to tell you your day master, your basic characteristics, your talents, how you well, Luciana, she's had her Bazi done. It tells you all about yourself. It also tells you your profile, which is the hat you wear in business. So it'll be good for looking at business. It also has your door of destiny. It's what actions to be taken. So anyway, I wanted to sort of, not only did I want you all to kind of read the book and read stories and find a moment to be inspired, I wanted to give you another tool so that you could feel like you could make some changes that were personally for you. So I added that in. And then as we sign, so I created this deck of cards. It's not for sale, but it's like a tarot deck and has all the quotes because the book is a book of quotes. So when you sign when you get a book signed today, you can pick your guidance for and take it, and that can be your bookmark. Cool. So that's your extra. Thank you all for coming. It's a wrap. How do we buy the book? Just pick one up. So wait. So